So my friend Vehan and I decided to get up early and hit the riverbed before it got too hot. And we're in the Wujie Riverbed. We've had quite a lot of rain lately, and you can tell the rocks we're going over have been flooded recently. And this is the first kind of hard rocky bit. It's a little bit challenging. We got out in the riverbed around 6:30 or so, and we're fresh, the air's cool, and so, we're having a good time, moving kind of fast. So in this section, you tend to want to go high because the rocks are smaller up there, but then you end up on a really steep bit, and the river crossing is actually back down toward the right. And so I've been here before, and I know, to me, the best line is back toward the right. You kind of make your way down that way, and then the rocks are less steep, and then you just kind of make your way down into that. So you just kind of let gravity do its work, and the bike will just kind of coast on down into the bottom. So this is a bit steep, but you just kind of let gravity do it, and you hit the bottom. So then I wait for my friend here as he comes down the steeper, more challenging bit. And then we're off. So this is the really difficult bit. This is where I stopped last time, but last time there wasn't really a line, and since then some bikes have been through, but it's definitely challenging. Every time I come here, it's always challenging. There is no easy way through this. You expend a lot of energy making it through these rocks, and it's very key to pick the right line. Because last time I was here, I got off on the wrong line, and I ended up really fighting with the bike a lot, and it was so hectic. Once you get out of your rhythm, it can be really hard to get back into your rhythm. So the rocks are narrow there, and his bike's pretty big. So just a little bit of a struggle. So this is farther on down. Several kilometers down. So this is where it gets really challenging. That's where I fell over?
That's probably, I was just going to say, that looks like falling over.
It's a lot deeper than it looks, actually. So the trouble is, this is the easiest crossing.
But then there's deep pool there and deep pool here.
Then you have to go around.
You have to obviously jump it from this rock over.
So I picked my river crossing because it's the shallowest bit that I can see. The water's spread out, and so I'm trying to avoid the deep holes, and I just end up in this mud, and it just sucks you down. So I've buried it good in this mud. It's going to be interesting trying to get out, because this is deep. So we're going to give it a go. If there's no one to help you, this is really, really hectic to get out of. I've done it before, and it just takes a ton of effort. But with two people, it wasn't too bad, and we were out in about 5 minutes.
Remember the hard way, don't go on the soft side.
So the last time I was here hitting this high line, a lot of bikes had been through, and it wasn't that hard. Now it's all been jumbled around, a lot of stuff has been moved by the rain, rocks have been moved around, and it is really challenging. Vehan said he would not come up here. He was not interested in it. And so he ended up finding another way. The mud's a little soft here, but I just plowed through. So while I was messing around in here, he took a much easier path, which is how we went back. So here I fell over because you can see the rock there ran into my foot peg, and when your foot peg runs into a rock or the side of the frame, there's not a lot you can do. You just fall over. And the only thing that I found is just to pick a better line and just make sure your foot peg's clear. So that wasn't even all the struggling I did. I cut some of it out. So this is a deep little hole here. I kind of had to think about it, and then I was pretty aggressive about going through because I wasn't really sure how easy it would be. But it ended up not being too bad. So I went ahead and did the river crossings. They're pretty easy. And then I figured I'd video Vehan doing them. The key is to pick the right line through these rocks, because the wrong line will end up with you in the water. So we got to this beautiful waterfall, and this was about 8:30 in the morning, and we spent about 30 minutes hanging out.
So he fell over right over there, and we spent the last 30-40 minutes clearing his engine of water. Of course, I did the same thing here.
So we had spent probably an hour or more fighting with his bike, and we were exhausted by this point. We had taken turns kick-starting this bike over and over. We had to take apart the exhaust, the intake, take the spark plug out, empty all the water out of it, sometimes multiple times, and the bike's not running very well. So the bike dies here. So I realized I'd have to park my bike, so I went ahead and crossed and found a good place to park.
So it won't start.
I was full clutch in when it died.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this. It's just it died. And now it's sounding pretty without feeling.
Yeah.
There's a difficult point over here to do the thing. This is not exactly that point I was trying to avoid. Sitting on the rocks in the sun.
Yep.
Wishing something is different. As it is, here we are. Yay.
We're both tired, we're just over it. It's so fatiguing trying to kick this 650 over. It's a 650cc single, and it just takes so much effort. I would kick 3 times, he would kick 3 times, I would kick 2 times. We finally got it running again, but it wasn't running well, so you can hear the misfire. We have to keep it revved up or it won't stay running. I was worried that there was actually engine damage, so I was checking for blue smoke, but I couldn't find any blue smoke, so that was reassuring.
Should we try the airbox?
but you can hear how badly it's misfiring. So I'm installing the air filter again. We were worried that it was wet and it was causing it to not run well, but it didn't seem to make any difference whether it had an air filter in it or not. So you can still hear it misfiring really badly. It makes it that much more challenging to ride over these obstacles because you have to keep the revs up and it doesn't want to run and you have to slip the clutch. So he gets into this river and then it just keeps misfiring. I cut some of this out. He sat there for quite a while revving it. So I'm so fatigued from kicking this bike over and over in the hot sun that I'm sitting down for this little hop and I just totally stack it. This is just pure fatigue and stupidity. Then my GoPro battery died about here. I got stuck on some rocks and he dropped his bike. His bike overheated.
It's not cold anymore. And we have shadow.
Yeah.
So after a while we got it going again. This is the better line to cross the river instead of going through those rocks that I did. It is a bit deep there though, and the back tire digs in. He's running a Timson tire that's not very good and it doesn't want to grab traction, especially when it gets wet. So I'm actually purposely standing off to the side. I'm not standing right behind him, but I'm still getting roosted. So I grab my goggles and I throw those on to protect myself. That's the only crossing I have to walk across in that place, basically. So we're off. Things are going a lot better. The bike's running better. Just having air moving over us is a huge bonus. Timson's letting him down again. Just can't get drive. Spinning, spinning, spinning. So here's the hard bit again. Now we're fatigued. It's in the hot sun. It's just that much more challenging. You can see it from this angle how big the rocks are. He's riding it really well, actually. So then he proceeds to drop the bike.
Just as you think,
You probably relaxed a little. That was the problem.
and just to kick a little bit more from flooding.
Then we finally get going again. And I proceed to drop the bike in pretty much the same place. From here on, I'm riding pretty well by my standards. I'm standing up on the pegs and I'm starting to get a flow going, even though these rocks are really large and technical. I'm putting out a huge amount of energy. I'm standing up, I'm using my legs, I'm using my arms, like my whole body is fatigued. By this point, it's basically noon. We've been in the riverbed for 6 hours and it's just been so hot. So this is kind of the exit, you know, of the hard bit. I feel like I did it in style. Then it just feels so good to be back in the easy stuff and just opening it up, blasting. His XR just does so well in this stuff. It just flies. Getting a little wet on the river crossings isn't even a big deal because they're so hot. And yet again, the riverbed is just so humbling. It just can bring you to your knees. It seems like every other time I get in the riverbed, it just shows me how little it cares about me and my skill and my ego. All of it means nothing. Nothing in the face of the riverbed. And it keeps bringing me back for more. I'm a glutton for punishment.